You know what I'm thankful for? The NERF N-Strike Jolt. This humble little blaster is probably the one reason why this channel exists. This blaster was the one that actually got me hooked on foam flinging. It's a tiny, compact package that packs a surprising amount of punch. It's also quality, it's fun, it's a blaster that everybody should have, and if you've never held a Jolt before or any of its now hundreds of derivatives, it is one that you should pick up. I love the Jolt. Honestly, it's probably the best blaster Hasbro ever made, right behind the Maverick, and it is most likely my favorite blaster of all time, even though Coop pretty much ruined it. Now, these blasters are known to be really inexpensive. Typically, they're under $5. I think MSRP is around $3.99 in the US. You can probably find them a little bit cheaper, and when they show up at like Goodwills and stuff like that, they're a heck of a lot cheaper. But over the years, not only has there been more expensive Jolts in the form of the Micro Shots line, there's been less expensive Jolts in the Alpha Strike Stinger. Now the Stinger, for all intents and purposes, is the same blaster. It functions in the same exact way, with a few changes here or there to make it what I assume a little less expensive for Hasbro to produce. Clocking in at an MSRP of $2.99, it is one of the cheapest NERF blasters you can buy. In fact, it might be the cheapest NERF blaster you can buy. So then, why the heck does this thing exist? The Alpha Strike Uppercut in the same line as the Stinger, and yet I don't know why this blaster is a thing, rivaling the same cost of the Stinger, and yet obviously, by looking at it, you get about 1/3 the blaster. It even comes sealed for freshness, but I don't think this plastic wrap is going to save this stinky turd, because I'm pretty sure the NERF Alpha Strike Uppercut, just saying that makes me want to puke, because it's the worst NERF line next to Ultra, and it's a Jolt, but they somehow made it worse than a Jolt, and yet there's really no reason for it to be at the same price as the Alpha Strike Stinger. Let's dig into this one, because this might be the worst blaster ever made. The NERF Alpha Strike Uppercut comes in two flavors, a blueberry and an orange, and that's about as good as it's going to get for this blaster, because everything after that is a massive disappointment. Now that's impressive, because looking at the Uppercut, you really don't expect a whole lot from it. You expect a single load HAMP that should be rather inexpensive, but as I alluded to earlier, it is the same price as the Stinger, and yet doesn't feature any kind of trigger or anything. And honestly, right off the bat, there's one thing about this blaster that caught me completely off guard. I knew it said slam on the package. It does not have a trigger, so I figured it was some kind of HAMP, right? Well, it is, and it isn't. The plunger is spring-loaded. Really cool to make this a little bit better, easier to use, because you don't have to pull down the plunger after you're done firing it. But that just begs the question, why does it not have a trigger in a traditional catch? It's the same price, it's the same material, it's packaged in a bag instead of a box, it's as cheap as possible, and yet it's still the same price as a Stinger, and it's still a massive piece of crap. I know what you're thinking though, it's obviously not that bad, right Walcom? You load a dart into the barrel, and you slam it. Good luck ever hitting anything with that. Wow. I actually had some amount of hope for this, because it would be cool to have a blaster like somewhere that you could easily just like that, and then like shoot it and do all those sorts of cool things. But honestly, you're never going to probably hit what you're aiming at with this thing, because this is a really awkward thing. So right off the bat, you think you want to hold it and hit like that, but your barrel is tilted upwards because of that. So you have to kind of hit it at an angle, which is a really awkward preposition. And then you're also talking about the fact that you're trying to keep it steady, and it just doesn't work because you're bouncing everything around. It is awful. This thing makes a better piece of like plastic knuckle than it makes anything else related to a blaster. Also, please do not ever use it for that purpose. I'm pretty sure you'll break your hand. So the distance, right? The distance is the thing that's gonna make this better than the Stinger, or comparable to the Jolt. Oh my God, You have no idea. All right, so first, a Jolt for control, and we're not even gonna mess around with this one. We're going straight with the angled shots. Holy, what? That just cleared rival range. Oh, let's do that with an Adventure Force waffle. There we go. That's what I expected. I don't know what happened with that last one. Maybe this Jolt is magical. But you get the idea. Next up, this stupid thing. Well, that would actually spiral out of control, so it might actually be too powerful. Let's do it a little bit more gently. All right, that was pretty bad. Let's super dart this. Yep. That is not even trying to go straight. It might actually need a brass barrel to be usable. That was about the best idea. Again, it's comparable to a Jolt, I guess, but the problem is that it's not a Jolt. It's awful. Like, you could argue that the Warden from the Elite 2.0 line from NERF is actually the worst blaster ever because it breaks. But that's still better when it works than something like this. So I honestly might rather take my chances with the Warden than something I basically can't even use. So I take that at what you will, I guess. I would try to chronograph this thing, but let's face it, it's virtually impossible to get this through my chronograph. So I'm not even gonna bother, because it's impossible. And how mad can I really be? It's $3. It's not even sold in my state. These were sent to me by Abquintic, and I thank him so very much, because I could only find them online at one place called like HEB or something like that, and there's none of those like even in my side of the country. So they had one nearby and they picked some up for me, and I almost regret it because it's awful. Arguably, you could say, well, it's fun. Kids are gonna have fun with it and so forth, but I'd also rationalize that kids would have fun with a Jolt. They're gonna have fun with this. They're gonna have fun with a Jolt. They're probably gonna have more fun with a Jolt and or a Stinger because they can actually hit what they're aiming at, and they have a trigger to pull, which, like, a trigger is one of the most important things on any blaster. Think about how often we are disappointed by getting fake triggers. And the fact that it's so close to being a Stinger or a Jolt just perplexes me because, like, it has a spring in it. It has a plunger. All it needs is a catch, a notch in the thing, and then a little tiny pivot trigger, which would cost them virtually nothing. And the worst part about that is it is the same price as a Stinger. How much money is Hasbro actually saving for this to come out on store shelves? The market has to be bloodthirsty for this kind of product to exist, and I'm just not seeing it. And that's not even mixing two different lines. They're both in the same line of NERF, the Alpha Strike. Why? To quote somebody a lot more famous than I will ever be, what were they thinking? Honestly, it probably would have been better if they would have just figured out how to make it an actual HAMP without the spring in it and just saved an extra $1. Make it $2, make it $1. You get one blaster and a dart in a bag. Get everybody who's like, I've never touched a NERF blaster before. Wow, that's a lot more powerful than I thought. I bet the bigger ones are even better, and boom, you generate sales. I give the NERF Alpha Strike Uppercut the highest recommendation I could give of any blaster because I'm a freaking idiot. This thing is amazingly awful, and I do not recommend you pick one up, even if you're sickeningly curious about it. Oh, and if you wanted to take this thing apart, you totally could, but it's built in this ingenious way where it pretty much only goes together. To take it apart, you'd have to pretty much break it. I think you could take it apart without physically breaking it and still keeping it working, but you'd probably need glue or something after that to keep this little, like, sliding pin thing in place. It's not worth your time. But it will be fun to actually tag somebody with one of these at one point, and that might be the best use of this blaster. We railed on the Buzzbee Tech 3 for so long, and I'm so thankful that blaster exists because it's better than the NERF Alpha Strike Uppercut. I'm Walcom S7, thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, get ready, because we have a lot more videos coming. I'm just stalling for time. And of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different video. You gotta up,